How was school for me? Oh my goodness. So I don't really remember what I learned, to be honest. More in university I do, because that's closer to about 12 years ago. But high school and elementary, I have no idea what I learned. I don't remember my timetables. I don't remember the science or anything except for alchemy symbols, because I'm really into them now. But for me, what I remember as an intuitive and empath was more how others made me feel and the relationships that I had. And I remember people were mean. You know, school was not fun for me. There was fights, there was bullying, I didn't like going at all. And I don't even like thinking about it. It was just a really sad time in my life. And then also having to switch around countries and coming in here and having to learn the language really fast in grade 1 and 2. And I didn't enjoy the experience at all. I just didn't. I guess that's been the inspiration for schooling or unschooling or homeschooling now my own daughter, because I can relate to how I felt in school, and I didn't want her to grow up with the same experiences I did. And she's highly intuitive as well and very aware. So for the first 3 years I was privileged enough to send her to a private school, which was Waldorf Academy in Toronto, and she had the foundation of Rudolf Steiner. So for anybody that doesn't know, I highly recommend Googling it and learning about Waldorf and some of the basic ways that the child is developed, and how much of the system is focused on expressing your imagination and going into like a very organic way of bringing out the gifts that your child already has in a very loving atmosphere. I highly recommend it. So she had that base and foundation for 3 years. And then when I left and had that big awakening, I had to leave the city and left kind of all the addictions behind and the corporate and the limiting beliefs, and went on this kind of like shamanic, deep, self-guided journey up north of forgiveness and discovery. I brought her obviously up there with me, and there weren't really a lot of choices, and there certainly wasn't Waldorf, and Spirit was telling me that she needs to go to public school system. This crazy journey of public school system, and I volunteered, and I was able to kind of see mainstream what's happening right now in our society, and it was daunting. It was really heartbreaking, but also eye-opening about some of the challenges that our society is faced with right now. I mean, 95% of the kids were coming with packaged junk food to school, for one. So for me as a registered nutritionist, I saw right away the connection between the emotion and the emotional instability with the diet of the children. Because of me being able to volunteer at the school, the kids would be off the wall. There were so many tantrums and crying and bullying and fights, and half the teachers couldn't see that the connection was to the food. They were handing out candy as ways of, you know, encouraging or guessing a math question or this. And for me, I mean, I always told my daughter that your first learning starts here at home. For this period of your life, just go to school, have fun at school, don't take it too seriously. You know, as I would send her off and kind of like cry and like, how much longer is this gonna last for? Because I couldn't, I was starting to lose it a little bit because of what I saw in the school system. And it was, you know, no disrespect to anybody. It's just, it wasn't for us. There was a lot of corporate influence in it. There was a lot of lining up in a straight line, do this, don't do this, say this. No, I mean, the art classes were cut. There's no music, you know, no chess, nothing to really stimulate the young child mind or to creatively open up those channels of imagination. There's nothing like she experiences it. And I mean, extreme opposite to this kind of Hogwarts, Waldorf-y, you know, Hobbit school that she went through. So again, Spirit showed me two contrasts, and I'm really grateful for that experience again because they're so extreme, but it fueled my passion and energy to be able to see both sides of what was happening and go, okay, now this is what we're going to decide. So the next part of the journey was moving to Salt Spring, which is a magical little island on the west coast. And the reason we did is I put her intuitively on a wilderness school waiting list, which is called Wolf Kids, which is guided for John Young, which is based on coyote mentoring. So she got in this year, and I didn't care about anything else. I packed up the whole car and left and started the drive across Canada with her to settle on the island. And I am so grateful that we did, because she has just transformed so much in this environment. Her confidence levels have shot up, her self-esteem. All the kids are bringing organic, home-cooked, like permaculture meals from organic farms on the island. Everyone is super conscious and aware. And more importantly, she's becoming more of a free-range child. So half the kids wear shoes, the other half don't. There's a lot of earthing happening, which is basically, for people who are listening who don't understand what that is there's an electromagnetic field on the earth, and when we're connected barefoot to the earth, everything about our being relaxes. So we become very relaxed. There's no stress in the system. We're able to focus more mentally with clarity. Our spirit opens up our heart. So this school is based on that a little bit. It also teaches kids how to sit in a sit spot alone for half an hour and to become the observer of the experience. So you see a crow go by, or you look at the ladybug in detail, and you start communicating with nature, with your surroundings. You get to, I guess, on a higher level, feel your part in the existence of the bigger whole. So where do you fit in your surroundings, in your community, in yourself? So a big part of my conscious parenting with her now is, how do you respect yourself? How do you take care of? How do you hydrate? How do you eat the rainbow diet and the food? And how do you connect and be grateful for each of those experiences? And then you go further, one step from that is, now how do you relate with the world around you, your peers, your parents, your other mentors and teachers? How do you respect one another, and how do you build that bridge on communication, which is nonviolent? And then we go even further than that. The program goes, how do you now communicate with your community and the land, and what kind of legacy are you going to leave behind? And my goodness, so in the last 8 years, there's such a rich background and experience in having gone from Waldorf to public school to now this wilderness school. So we've kind of mixed and matched a lot of these different areas, and I mean, it speaks for itself. She is a really well-adjusted, beautiful, vibrant, healthy little girl. We've never vaccinated her, never chosen to do that either, and she's barely ever been sick. It's right for us. This is how we're raising her.
Wait, start again.
God is one. The names are many. There is no higher religion than love.
The program that she attends now is a 3-day wilderness program during the week, and there are no academics involved. So it's not like a traditional public school system or government-run program. It is very hands-on, and it's very experiential. So she gets parts of her academics through, let's say, the study of animal tracking. So she'll get the biology aspect of it, or the science, but it's coming at it from such a large angle of the experience. So she's visually seeing it. She's out there in the field. She's, for instance, as an example, tracking the animal. So she's looking, she's down on the ground, she's feeling it. Then she has a little field journal, so she'll write about it, or she'll draw it. Then she'll go back to the little lodge that they have built there, and she'll end up researching a little bit of the animal, learning that way. And then there's also storytelling around a fire. So one of the elders or the mentors will talk about the experience or the day. So it's a really, really rich way to absorb the education. And I think and feel, and I know a lot of people would agree with me, that that kind of stuff is retained more and ends up building the character more than just, for instance, sitting there and memorizing a timetable and then coming out of it being like, well, what is that? And how can I apply this? And what does that all even mean? And why am I so stressed answering these questions, and what for, right? So that part of her education I'm really loving right now, because it's kind of taken on this whole role in our household of, okay, now we're putting on Rosetta Stone's Spanish lesson, or now let's go to a museum, or let's take a ferry ride and go check out some whales, or it becomes this kind of bonding experience between us. So the other thing that is wonderful is there is a program on the island that's put on through a local organic farm called Stoa Lake. And they have a yurt there, and they do have a registered teacher. It's part of an island discovery program. So the government actually does, if you attend that program for a day, they do end up giving you a homeschooling fund that you get to then apply towards supplies or books or anything that you kind of need to put these little mini programs together for, you know, your experience that you build for your child. So really it's self-guided by Ellie, whatever she wants to learn and whatever she's drawn to, kind of help guide her that way, and that way there's no hassle, and she's not like, oh, I don't want to do it, and this, and there's no sit down and do it. Like, it's none of that, because she wants to do it. She's interested in it, so she gets it now. She really does. She looks at me and she's like, I understand why we moved here, Mom. You know, I get it. And that in itself is so rewarding for me, to know that we have that kind of bond and understanding between one another, and that I'm giving her this experience. And she equally is giving this experience to me, because I really wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her coming in at the time that she did. I mean, I've been able to transform every aspect of myself because of her. She's been an extension of my own inner child, and I've had to learn to love her the way that maybe I didn't feel loved growing up in a very conditional world that is reflected everywhere still to this day. But the important thing is that this awakening and the children of the rainbow and the earth warriors and kind of the indigo energy that's coming in, rainbow children, that's all happened. Like, that's why we're here, and that's why this new energy is being born, is because we're system busters, and we take the old and it doesn't make sense, and we go, okay, this is a bit off, and this isn't gonna work for me. We still have that fire and passion and energy to be like, I'm just gonna take you out of the system, and we're not gonna be in a system. And that's great, and it works for some people and it doesn't, and it's scary for some, and for others it's not. And that's what we're doing. I used to rebel in more negative ways, and now I'm just doing it with more positivity. So now I'm being assertive, and I'm making the choices that are going to be the best for me and my daughter, and that's going to create, I think, whatever experience it's going to create for the world, and the change starting from within and with us. And I think that's how the change is going to happen in the world. That's how it is happening, one kind of family at a time in the now. About 6 months of connected conscious breathing. I mean, I started seeing the changes right away, but the big kind of paradigm shift started happening about 6 months in, and it was beautiful. It was really intensified, and this started opening, and I would start seeing these purple energy like flowing into my crown chakra, and things would literally be shifting in my body, and my face would start transforming, and my intuitive capabilities picked up, and even when I'm communicating with people, I can feel and see energy differently now, and a lot more compassion has come out of the experience, not just towards myself, but towards others and their journey and what they're going through and the suffering that's happening in the world right now, and being able to take my journey and hopefully offer it as a voice of encouragement or inspiration, and more specifically around children, which is huge for me, because I want somehow for this message to reach children so that they know that, oh, okay, you can love yourself, and you're beautiful, and your words do have power, and watch your thoughts, and some of these things that I didn't grow up with, and then I end up taking these kind of numbing journeys in high school, negative influences, which is the same old story that we're hearing, and enough of that story already. Like, we're so bright, and there's so much awareness, and there is so much goodness on the planet, and I think a lot of people are starting to understand the concept of the now. Like, we're seeing pop up everywhere. What is this now? It's now. This is what's happening, and this is all that matters right now in this moment, is unfolding and evolving, and the love is here. And I think our children deserve that, and we're building the new earth for sure, one person, one limiting belief at a time.